The Minding Your Business podcast is brought to you again by the Binge Podcast Network. The Binge at onabinge.com is where you need to go to check out all the great podcasters and podcast shows. onabinge.com. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting a new podcast, definitely you need to reach out to us on onabinge.com. Brooks Brothers Consulting, brooksbrothersconsulting.com. Make sure you go there and check us out. That's my organization and a great sponsor for the Minding Your Business podcast. Episode 112 coming your way. We've got a special guest, and we're going to get into some student lending. But first,
what we do here is go back.
All right, I'm Champ Ron, your host for episode 112 of the Minding Your Business podcast. The MYBpodcast.com is where you can go to see more content as it relates to the podcast. But today I want to get right into our very special guest joining MYB here on Friday, October the 11th, 2019. We're very excited to have Mr. Travis Hornsby, who's the founder of the Student Loan Planner, and he's the host of the Student Loan Planner podcast. Travis, are you there?
I am, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for taking time today to be on with the MYB community here on the Minding Your Business podcast. And you ready to share some valuable insight?
Yes, I am.
All right, awesome. And I know you are, man. Checking you out and kind of seeing your social media, seeing your site. I'm curious, as is the rest of the listeners here and viewers. You know, Travis, I guess tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I used to be a bond trader, slinging paper around Wall Street, and then I just decided that wasn't what I was meant to do. So I just got basically engaged to the person I'm married to now, my wife, and she had a lot of medical school debt. And I thought it was going to be easy to pay it back. I thought you were just going to, figure out a way to refinance it or pay it down or something. But then I realized you could do loan forgiveness, you could do income-based repayment. You had all these options. And so it just wasn't that simple to figure out. And so then I just made a spreadsheet based off of those bond trader skills, and I shared it, and that stuff started going viral. And I realized, wow, I probably need to do this instead of just doing bond trading, because I didn't have the deep passion for bond trading that I do just helping people with their money.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And so you transition from bond trading. I imagine you're working for one of the large firms there in Wall Street. Obviously you have this transition, Travis. And so, how was it early on? How did you kind of groom the business? How did you begin, finding clientele? Was there obstacles in doing that, or was it fairly easy and kind of simple, or?
Yeah, I like to tell people that I didn't have a business plan. I mean, I just kind of got lucky in that regard, that I found something that people deeply needed. So I think that, having a really defined market that has a deep pain point that needs to be solved, that nobody's solving well, that's always going to beat having the best business plan for a market, not a great market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of what happened to me. I got a little lucky in that regard. And my first client was actually a veterinarian who had $400,000 in student loan debt that was just friends with me and my wife. And my wife was like, you should charge her a flat fee to go over her loans and make a plan for her, because it's her number one stress. And none of the financial planners she's talking to were helping her. And so I thought, oh, okay. I don't really feel right charging a friend, but she was willing to do that. I'm more than happy to do it, because I really did understand more than your average person. And so when I helped her, she told all of her friends. So she was like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about loans. He can help us get the lowest payment. He can help us optimize things, and so that's kind of when my name started getting spread around, just word of mouth, that I did this. And then the big break came for me when I was a blogger. I was a blogger for about a year and a half, just kind of for fun.
Sure.
And then I niched down, and I focused on student loans only for large debts. So I was not even just in general a student loan blogger. I was a large debt student loan blogger. And then the article that I wrote about the spreadsheet went viral on this site called Business Insider. And then Business Insider is syndicated to other websites. So when an article goes viral on Business Insider, then it can sometimes go viral on places like Yahoo.
Okay.
So Yahoo picked up that article too, and so that article got viewed like 500,000 times.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so that's what really took off the business, is because I got those 500,000 views of this article that I just pitched to editors saying, like, I think this spreadsheet is pretty helpful. I've seen you published an article recently that also featured a spreadsheet that got 1 million views. So I think this is a hot topic that could benefit a lot of people. And she agreed. So that's how I got the initial, opportunity in the first place. And so I got that attention, and like I was not even prepared for the opportunity, right? I got like probably several dozen emails asking to do a student loan plan with me. This was back in like 2016, I think.
Okay.
And so, I just decided, like, okay, this is a pretty legit thing. I'm going to go ahead and make a website for this. So I searched a bunch of different URLs, came up with studentloanplanner.com, and then registered that, and then basically started writing blog posts specifically about some of the things I was learning. And then I did some Facebook ads. So I did a Facebook ad to this one post about how veterinarians get screwed over for student loan debt. And that post went viral across basically the entire veterinary community on Facebook and got 25,000 views in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
And that was really good for a brand new blog. I still haven't had traffic like that still after 3 years in business. Although, we have a lot more views on a monthly basis than we did back then.
Okay.
But, yeah, so, I think about that, and I just think about how it was just so amazing how the story kind of happened. I was really in the right place, right time with the right problem in the right market.
Right, absolutely. So our guest today, Travis Hornsby, founder of Student Loan Planner and the host of the Student Loan Planner podcast. So, Travis, tell me, I guess, a little bit more about, I guess, as you're pulling the market together, tell me a little bit more about solving the pain point, because it's I'm curious as to, I guess, why it's not being solved, or what's kind of your I guess thought as to why it's not being solved. Well, why are they not financial planners and people solving this problem for people, for consumers? And then, I guess, kind of hang tight for me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, I thought somebody was jumping on. But kind of share with me the thought from the consumer standpoint, because to me, it just seems like people should be having this problem solved, whether it's from the government standpoint, and certainly if it's not the government, then it should be solved from financial planners and, those type of folks. And it just seems like it's not. So why do you think it's not?
Yeah, it's a great question. So every financial advisor that you'll tend to meet just wants to invest your money, right? Like, they want to build a portfolio for you. They want to invest, in a brokerage account for you, a retirement account. And then the ones who don't want to do that, but do charge just for financial planning, they want to charge you probably some 4-figure amount per year as a retainer.
Okay.
And so the problem with that is, if you're dealing with $200,000 of student loan debt, the last thing in the world you want to do is sign up for a $5,000 a year bill.
Right. Right. No, hell no.
Even if the advice is really good, student loan borrowers are...
They're strapped for cash. And so that's, and that kind of leads me to, how, from your business standpoint, how do you generate revenue for yourself? Because when I think of, like you were just saying, people that are strapped for cash when they're, behind the 8 ball with student loans, right. It seems like one of the last things they're going to want to do is pay any kind of fee or, get into any kind of monthly subscription or anything like that. So, how does that work as you right. transition?
Well, so the number one way we make our money is making custom plans for people and charging a fee for that. So what we found out was that a lot of people didn't want to pay $5,000, but a lot of people were willing to pay $500.
Sure.
So in other words, people, can't afford this huge 4-figure bill for financial advice, and what they can afford is a very targeted, limited engagement that focuses on their student loans and make sure they're paying their loans back in the way that saves them the most money and reduces their stress.
Okay.
So, just as an example of this, Starbucks is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but they do it with $4 lattes, right?
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah, they sell a volume of
so in
them.
other words, they sell volume, exactly. So what I realized is there's, 3 million student loan borrowers that owe six figures of student loan debt. And the market right now says you need to sign up for my financial planning services and pay me $5,000 a year. And then, oh, by the way, I don't really know that much about student loans because
Right.
I want to invest your money mostly.
Yeah.
So we saw a market gap where the people didn't understand the problem, that were trying to charge 10 times as much money to solve it. And so we entered the market with this approach of, well, how about we do a bunch of plans for people where we're solving their student loans? That's all we're focused on. So if you look at our business now, like we'll have situations where we have a team of consultants, it's not just me, we'll have a consultant that's going to do 11 plans in a day.
Right.
And so they're literally working 11 different clients in a day, coming up with plans for 11 different people that could change their life. And we're charging anywhere from $300 to $600 for that. And, based off of usually the size and complexity of the debt situation. And it's a 1-hour engagement that gets follow-up with us for 6 months after. And that's something that's reasonable because we solved the problem. So,
Hey, Travis, did we lose you? Travis? NYB, I think we might have lost Travis, so...
I'm back.
Oh, there
I'm
you
back.
are. Okay,
I'm back.
cool. I want to make sure we didn't lose
Hopefully
you.
you have an
Okay,
editor.
cool. Not a problem.
I'm hoping, is that true, Ron? You have an editor?
I'm sorry?
I said, I hope you have an editor, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just jump right back in.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
where was I?
Yep, definitely. Go ahead.
Okay.
So you were kind of getting into, I guess, the revenue piece in terms of how your customers generate revenue for you. So you were saying that, of course, they're not willing to pay the
Right.
$5,000 to somebody, but they are willing to pay, say, $500 to have a plan developed.
Right. Sure. Okay, so I'll start there. So, yeah, basically we have a system where we're doing volume, and we've worked with close to 3,000 clients so far, and we're charging, a few $100. So that's the number one way we make our money. And the secondary way we make our money is when people refinance their student loans, they get a lower interest rate, and then they also get cashback bonuses. So the main way that people refinance currently is they go through these very large websites, personal finance sites, and they get zero bonus for it. So they'll go through, one of the big companies out there, and they'll get nothing for doing something that they might need to do, which is to refinance their loan to a lower interest rate. And then what we do that's different is instead of taking the full commission, so instead of taking that full, whatever it is, $500 or $1,000 or something, when somebody refinances their student loans, we'll give them back, several $100s as a welcome bonus for refinancing through our links.
Okay.
So that's a big part of our business as well. And the goal there is to just simply offer better deals than anybody else does.
Sure. And that's through, I guess, a third party, I would imagine, that you're kind of an affinity partner with other student loan lenders. And so then a consumer can go through a link. You've got that set up between you and the lender. And when the consumer does the refinancing, and you receive some sort of compensation or spread based off of that, I imagine.
Correct.
Yeah,
so it's
that's
basically
awesome.
kind of like performance-based advertising, if you want to
Sure.
think about it like that.
Yeah.
So we publish a lot of content, and the lenders in some cases, it's a good decision for the person to get a lower interest rate so they can get out of their debt faster. So, if somebody's paying 7%, they can refinance it to a 4, which is possible sometimes in this market. Then you can save thousands of dollars. It's helping you get out of debt faster.
Sure.
So, typically the lenders will pay some sort of advertising fee per loan that you do. And so the difference between the way we do business and the way other companies do business is because we have that planning piece where we don't want to be super incentivized to send people through those links, we give those cashback bonuses that give away a percentage of our commission, a large percentage of it, so that people are getting the best deals on the internet. So that's kind of my goal, is that somebody would go to our site and find the best deal anywhere for their student loan refinancing, and that's possible through years of negotiation with these partners. So, you compare our business to some other businesses out there, there's people that will help you for free on your student loans, but they only make money if you refinance.
Right.
So obviously that's a conflict of interest, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because they're not really helping you. Yeah, they're not really helping you solve the problem. I mean, they are maybe on the back end by refinancing, but they're not giving you a plan for you to follow. So they're not helping you adjust the behavior, because some people I imagine you deal with are probably, they may go back to school, or they may look at a situation where they pick up more debt in the future. So it's not just student loan debt. And really, your plan could probably be followed with all debt. And so you're not really helping the problem by just saying, hey, you can refinance, because that's just one segment of maybe even a larger problem. So it sounds like your company then, Travis, is just much more holistic and much more impactful.
That's what we try to be. We try to be, we try to have, I want to have the biggest impact as I possibly can, right? You don't leave bond trading to make more money, probably, right? Like, that's not really, if I wanted to make more money, I would have stayed in that field.
Right.
I think that, but the thing is we're also doing really well helping people, which I like. We have a large group of people. We've got like about 15 of us, and we're focused on what is the best interest of the borrower. That's the goal. And I don't know if you wanted to kind of do any case studies, if you know anybody in your personal orbit that's dealing with student loan debt, but we can maybe do one kind of improv style if you wanted to. We can have that on the show. Yeah,
absolutely. So, Travis, I think there are a lot of people that are across the gambit. Some people have undergraduate, student loan debt. Some have graduate. Some have, kind of in the professional realm. Let's kind of go to the professional level if we could. So if you have someone that's a pharmacist, right? So they graduate from pharmacy school and they have, six-figure debt. Right, six-figure student loan debt. And they start out in the field and, they make good money, of course, because one of the unique areas of pharmacy is it's not a kind of a level up industry. It's not an industry where you got to you pay all your dues in school. So it's not like me in banking where you don't really walk in the door as an executive, right? You kind of start from the bottom for the most part, and you kind of work your way up. And that's how a lot of industries are. But pharmacy and some others are a little unique in that, you kind of demand a certain salary right out of school by having the credentials. And so because of that, let's just say this person comes out, they've got, let's just call it $120,000 in student loan debt. They got 10 or 15 years to pay it. They've got, $1,200 to $1,400 monthly payment. But, it's just kind of killing them and slaughtering them. And they can service the debt. So it's not a situation, I guess, Travis, where they can't service the debt, but servicing the debt pools from so many other areas that they don't really get ahead. It's hard for them to save. It's hard for them to travel and do a lot of different things because that equity injection is going to student lending. So what would be some of your kind of top of the mind thoughts for helping someone in that situation?
So is this person in a private practice or a not-for-profit hospital?
So let's just say more they're in the retail side. So they're, maybe at a pharmacy. So they're like in a Walgreens. Maybe they're in a private clinic or something like that, or maybe they're even at a hospital. Where they're not in retail.
This person, so I would say this: if this person is single, graduating like fresh graduate, what they could do is they could go to studentloans.gov and they can consolidate all of their loans into one direct loan with the government. And they could sign up for something called the revised pay-as-you-earn program. So it's called the Repay program. So this program gives you a subsidy on your interest of 50% of all of the interest that your required payment doesn't cover. So in the first year, basically, every pharmacist that graduates could get a $0 payment if they did this right. And why does that help you out? It's because you could get a 50% interest subsidy in that first year only. Okay? So, for example, this pharmacist, instead of dealing with $7,000 of interest that would accrue during her first year, she could get on repay and have $3,500 be charged instead. That's a pretty big deal to have half of your interest cut, for the first year, right? And have $0 a month payment, so that you can prevent that loan from growing very much, so that you can build up your emergency fund. So after year end, let's say that the debt is like $123,500 because this interest doesn't compound; it grows linearly.
Right.
So you've got $123,500. You've got an emergency fund. You have learned how to put money into your 401k. You're not feeling super stressed out, but you also want to keep your payment kind of low. So instead of doing a standard 10-year plan, which is the plan the government's going to default somebody into if you don't try to take any alternative action, what you can do instead is at that point you could refinance with a private lender. And you could cut your interest rate from 6 or 7% down to probably 5%, and then you could cut it from a 10-year to a 20-year. So you could do that mainly just because you want to have a low required payment, and you can always pay extra if you want to. So what I would kind of advise is somebody could refinance to a 20-year term in that scenario, be paying a required payment of $700 a month instead of $1,400 so they don't feel like they're drowning. And then you could pay a lot extra, and then in a couple of years after you do that, you could actually refinance the second time. So you could refinance from a 20-year to a 10-year, and then if you use our links, then you get the cash back for that too. So you would get probably $500 to $750 each time you refinance as a cash bonus.
Okay.
The main benefit, though, is cutting your interest rate. So, you started off with a $700 payment, you paid out a bunch of your debt, now you do a 10-year, now you're keeping that payment at $700 a month. So in other words, you control your payment. That's called the refinancing ladder strategy. And so this person got a subsidy of $3,500 in their first year, and they're saving probably, $2,000 or $3,000 per year in interest because of that refinancing that they did. So that's pretty impactful stuff. It's going to get that person out of debt sooner, and it's going to give them a lower payment.
Yep, definitely. Now, let's add on to that because, Travis, let's just say this person is married and they've got children, and maybe they're several years out of school. So, let's just say it's been, it's been 10 years, 5 to 10 years maybe that they've been, out of school, and they've just been hacking away. But, obviously, life takes place. Now you have children. You may upgrade your house. You may upgrade your vehicles and things like that because you've got this salary. But the challenge is
right.
that because you may be top heavy in debt. So some
right.
folks that are listening,
Sure.
they may be, probably 80% of their budget may be between 6 or 7 different bills. A student loan debt, a mortgage, a couple vehicles, maybe after school care for kids. And so that's probably, food, utilities. So probably, let's just call it 10 or less bills makes up 80 to 90% of their budget. Some of those they can make some moves on. Some of them are a little more challenging to do. But with student loan, obviously, right. I think there's a great opportunity for some folks to make some changes there. So where do you see opportunity for those folks? Maybe they've been paying on it a little while. And again, they're not having trouble servicing it. Their issues just, man, it'd be great to free up some cash flow to do some other things other than, this damn student loan,
I know that. So some of this is kind of real talk. Like, you just got to figure out what's important to the person. So if your goal is to free up cash flow, we can do that. So, for example, that loan that's been out of school for a little while, I would just double check that there's no count towards forgiveness. Like, there's no forgiveness credit that's been building up. And then if there's not, then what you could do is actually consolidate that with the government and get it onto a 30-year plan. So in other words, you cut that $1,400 a month payment down to probably $600 a month. Now, do you want to do that for 30 years? Probably not.
No.
Right?
No, so probably not.
In my opinion, that's kind of a short-term fix. So, we could get somebody onto a short-term fix. If somebody's working for a not-for-profit hospital or could, then I would tell somebody that maybe you might look into filing your taxes separately as a married couple, because that way you could only include your one income on that payment instead of both spouses' incomes. That's something that trips people up all the time.
Sure.
So, you could file taxes separately, sign up for something called the pay-as-you-earn plan, and then you could get on to basically one spouse paying that loan. And so that would probably give you a low payment in the $600 a month range as well. So if that person's kind of telling me that, hey, I'm stressed out, it's because I've got this $1,400 a month payment that I would like to get lower. We'll get your payment lower, but that might not necessarily lower your cost. In which case, we'll have another conversation, which is basically like, okay, this is what your financial security and your retirement date looks like if you change nothing. How does that make you feel? Right? So we'll just line all the spending up, we'll line up all the savings, we'll look at their savings rate, and we'll say, okay, based off all this, we can probably say that you're going to work until about 70. How does that make you feel? And they'll usually say something like, oh, that's terrible.
Right.
And so then I'll say, okay, well, I want to give somebody options. I never want to come in and tell somebody what they need to do. I want to educate them so that they're the ones that are in charge of their future, right? So I'm going to come in, I'm going to just say, okay, well, you've got these 2 car payments. You can absolutely trade in these cars like at a CarMax for something that's, something that's a lot cheaper, like a $6,000 Camry instead of a brand new $20,000 car. Or alternatively, maybe we don't touch the cars. Maybe we look at your house. So, for example, I had this couple in L.A. They had $1 million house, which sounds like a really fancy house, but it was actually only like 1,300 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. So that's L.A., right? And probably a lot of your listeners in San Francisco can relate to this. So the solution was literally to sell their house, take that $500,000 equity tax-free that they get from living in the house 2 of the past 5 years, and then take that $500,000 and they could use that to do multiple things. They could pay down their student loans. They could use it to beef up their retirement. They could use that to pay down other debt. In this case, this couple paid off all their car loans, all their personal loans, all their credit cards, and they had a ton of money in the bank for savings and fully funded their retirement that year. Right?
Right.
So a lot of parts of the country, housing is more of like a luxury purchase rather than an actual investment. I would put any of the coasts in that category. In my opinion, like just the valuations for housing in the coasts are just really, really high. And you're not going to retire because you bought a house in California. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, we'll talk about that, and we really like to focus on the top items in someone's budget. We don't really want somebody cutting out lattes. We want somebody doing those little things that they love. I don't want anybody cutting their exercise class that they live for. I don't want anybody cutting up those vacations that they're aiming to do every year. I really want to go after somebody's car and housing expenses if they decide that they'd rather retire at 60 rather than 70. Because then it's just a conversation. Like, I've had people taking care of parents, too. That's a real deal, like, for
it
people
is.
who especially came from, like, poor backgrounds.
Right.
You might want to take care of mom and dad. You might feel like you're the professional now and you owe it to them for investing in you to get you to where you are today to take care of mom and dad.
Right.
And we've had good conversations about that. We basically said, okay, so, you're maintaining a house for mom in Detroit and you live in Florida, okay, and, is this something that you're willing to do if your retirement date becomes 65 instead of 60? Like, would you work for an extra 5 years to keep mom in Detroit versus having her with you in Orlando?
Right.
And so a lot of times when people have kids and they could use some of that help because they're paying for daycare, the answer to that is, well, you know what? Like, yeah, I'd much rather have my mom down here watching after our kids so we can go out on date night and not have to worry about some random babysitter paying her a bunch of money and paying for my mom's mortgage.
Right.
So I find that a lot of this stuff is trade-offs. There's very rarely a situation where somebody's struggling and feeling like there's no cash left over for other bills where there isn't some sort of like just real comparison of like, this is what your life looks like with this. This is what your life looks like with this. Which one of these 2 options is something that makes you more excited and happier?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I think those are all great, great insightful thoughts, Travis. And I can tell that, those things that filter into your plan that then, really help people get a holistic view of their situation, that even transcends student lending. And so, you kind of lead me to kind of, some of my final questions, which are around, best practices. So, and I appreciate you kind of helping on the pharmacy aspect that kind of hits personal for me as well in my house, but and many others that I know. What are, for people dealing with student loans, you mentioned, some folks that may be a little more low to moderate income, what are 2 or 3 best practices that people can do, especially, for themselves and then for their children? Because you also have a lot of people that, whether they co-sign on student loans or they, they're looking at young people. They got people that are going into their junior, senior year in high school. So college is on the horizon, and they're trying to balance out what they're going to do. What are 2 or 3 best practices for some of those folks, to help, manage their student loan debt on the front end, for one thing, and then 2, if they have trouble, or even before they have trouble, how they can get with somebody like you as a value-added partner.
So on the front end, I'm going to be very, very frank with just the way that the scholarship systems work. So colleges care a ton about standardized test scores, right?
Right.
They care a lot about that because that stuff goes into their U.S. News and World Report rankings, which is what their number one is. So I know for a fact that one of the best investments that you can make, particularly if you're, a family of color, that you have kids that, are from underrepresented backgrounds, is to frankly invest in some SAT prep. Help your kid try to get the highest SAT score they possibly can, because there's programs out there like the Gates Scholarship Program that award, scholarships to underrepresented students for elite universities. And in a lot of cases, the biggest gap that I find is families are just not aware of these scholarships, So what I would suggest is, pay for that, expensive SAT prep course, because you could be looking at getting 100x return in your money. One of my roommates, Ipiani, he got this scholarship. I forget the exact name of it, but it was one of these kind of scholarships that, tries to target kids from underrepresented backgrounds. He got a full ride to, one of the top 30 universities, just because he did pretty well on his SAT and ACT, and he just signed up for a lot of these scholarship websites. I think there's one called Scholly. There's the scholarship system. If you Google that one, I think you'll find that. So families got to sign up for all these classes, and they have to realize that the currency that all these colleges deal with is SAT and ACT scores. So your son or daughter really needs to try to focus on getting, a really high SAT and ACT score. Also, I think National Achievement Scholars was a thing back when I was in middle school or high school.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's still a thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I would try to get, National Merit, National Achievement Scholar, try to get that credential, and then what happens is basically all these elite schools are fighting over their class, and they want to make their class look representative, and they're super worried that they're going to look like a lily-white school if they don't have a diverse class, and so because of that, you'll find that these financial aid offices will pour money, into trying to increase their class diversity. You just got to use that for your advantage if it applies to you.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And a lot of times, it could be something that's kind of random. We had a guy in our class that was 1/8 Native American, and he got a full ride to some school because technically he qualified with their cutoff. So, it doesn't really matter, your path. Take advantage of everything you possibly can, because, why not, right?
Right.
If your kid could go full ride to some elite university, why wouldn't you do that?
Right, exactly.
That's the big suggestion on the front end is, try to get, for undergrad debt, try to get your kid to focus on SAT scores and get those high.
Yeah.
And GPA, taking college classes, things like that.
Yep, definitely.
So for afterwards, the problem is for graduate programs, pretty much across the board, there's no help for that. So across the board, there's no sort of special help for your graduate programs. In which case, what you have to realize is, worst case scenario, your debt is going to feel like a tax. So if you borrow a whole bunch of money for graduate school, then you're either going to be able to pay a monthly payment like that $1,400 a month, or you'll pay 10% of your income. And so if you go to a pharmacy school and come out with $300,000, which is a real thing for a lot of people, that go to these private schools that pops up overnight,
right?
Then what you're basically committing yourself to is losing 10% of your income for your loans under these income-based options. So if you like the idea of being a pharmacist, losing 10% of your income because of your debt, more than being say a teacher with no debt, and that was a good decision to go to pharmacy school, even if you have a ton of debt.
Yeah. No, all that makes sense.
So,
yeah, absolutely. It all makes sense.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah. So, what are some ways that, Travis, people can get in touch with you? I mean, obviously, you've given us some great insight today, which I greatly appreciate. Helps me personally, and I think it helps a lot of people. But people may have some additional questions or maybe some things specific to them. So what's a great way that people can connect with you?
Sure. So, I mean, we can help somebody. You can learn about like what we do at studentloanplanner.com/help. We probably can send some of this stuff over for show notes if you have those. But so that's
absolutely.
probably the best way is studentloanplanner.com/help. And then also just our website and podcast. So if you just look at Student Loan Planner podcast, you type that into anything, like how people found your podcast, you can find ours. So that's like the free stuff, and then studentloanplanner.com's got a lot of free stuff on there. And then, again, if you're looking for that custom plan where, for 1/10 of the cost of a financial planner, we're going to do a better job figuring out your problems and figuring out what to do, we'll do that. And, we found all kinds of different things. I mean, everything from people that can get on a lower cost payment plan, saving them thousands of dollars a year, to one person was even past the statute of limitations on her loan because she hadn't paid in 7 years and she actually didn't know anything. And so we connected with her with an attorney to kind of get set up for filing for that. So, we try to help somebody no matter where they're at. But like in reality, most people are costing themselves so much money.
Wow.
So, and then our email too is help@studentloanplanner.com, and people would just rather email us.
Yep, absolutely. And those will be in the show notes, MYB, for you to be able to connect with hyperlinks. And so I advise everybody to reach out if you have specific questions, if you have specific ideas or thoughts, or if you're needing help, or if you're being proactive and you're looking at for young people in your family, whether it's a son or daughter or a cousin, a niece or nephew, whoever that is, a family friend. It's great to be proactive as well. So Travis can be a resource for you kind of all the way around, again, holistically. So MYB, I urge you to connect with him and get the help that you need. You may not be getting that now, but now you have a resource in Travis Hornsby, who's our guest today, the founder of Student Loan Planner and the host of the Student Loan Planner podcast. Listen, Travis, thank you so much, man. I know that it's a busy Friday for you. You got a lot going on, but I appreciate you taking time being here on the podcast. Definitely have checked out yours. Make sure you check out, again, the Student Loan Planner podcast, MYB, wherever you get your podcast content. And you can also connect and subscribe to it at studentloanplanner.com. Travis, thank you so much. I look to stay in touch with you, and best wishes to you personally and professionally, my man.
Appreciate you, Ron.
Yep. Have a great day, man. We'll talk soon. All right. That was Travis Hornsby, who is the founder of StudentLoanPlanner.com and the host of the Student Loan Planner podcast. He's been featured on USA Today, U.S. News, Business Insider, Forbes, Huffington Post, the Rolling Stone, all the way around. So,
Hello,
most
Ron
definitely.
Brooks.
So,
Have a caller. To accept the call, press 1. For more options.
right. Hey, Travis.
Excuse me.
Hey, not a problem. No, we were just wrapping up the show, so no worries. I'll talk to you here soon.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Yeah, hopefully everything worked out okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reach out if you need anything from me. Brittany might reach out with show notes stuff if you need any help there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I've got the information to put it out there. And like I say, once everything's together, I'll get it over to you.
No, I appreciate it, Ron. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yep, absolutely, Travis. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, my man.
All right, bye.
All right, bye-bye. So great opportunity there with Travis. I urge you all to connect with him for sure. He can be a great resource. Again, and that's what it's about. It's about best practices and resources for you to level up your business. And if student loan debt is something that is hindering you, MYB, then you need to get with people that have those resources and the connections to help you improve your situation. So A lot going on this week. Thank you so much for all your support of the podcast. This has been episode number 112. We're going to keep plugging this thing along. Look out for Accrued Interest, the banking pod coming your way this month. Look for that first episode. Definitely connect with me, Ron, at themybpodcast.com. That's the email address if you have interest in advertising, if you have interest in learning more about the podcast, other exclusive content, ideas, you want to connect with the binge, whatever it is that you want to do, reach out to me. I love hearing from you and the sort. So listen, we're going to move on. We've got the rest of the weekend here to get started. You've got busy times ahead, but take time out to be great for yourself and be great for your family and for your community. I'm your host, Champ Ron R.G. Brooks. Thank you so much. Episode 112 is in the books, and make it great.